I used to live in ignorance of the existence of yo-yoing. I knew of yo-yos, and I remember playing with them exactly one time when I was a kid, but I was unaware of just how deep it goes. That was before I watched Josoku Spina, translated as high-speed spinner, and referred to as Super Yo-Yo in English. This is the story following a boy named Shinichi. You stay back, English dub. I'm giving you a segment after I've talked about the show itself, despite how tempting it is to immediately dive into all of your issues. Shunichi is naturally talented at different sports and activities, and helps out others with these talents. He lacks any kind of hobby that he can be passionate about. This all changes one day when one of his friends, Beso, comes for help dealing with a local bully in regards to yo-yos. Shunichi is hesitant to help, likely because yo-yos aren't something he has experience with. Another friend, Leanne, taunts him a bit, leading to him skipping school for a bit to learn how to yo-yo.
Oh my god! Did you see that? It stopped! Oh my god! Shunichi's Russell's still spinning! Shunichi's Russell's still spinning! Hey!
He defeats the bully and talks too much about how yo-yoing is easy. This is overheard by Hojoin, the regional champion who, in turn, defeats Shunichi. Shunichi is not devastated, and is actually motivated by this, leading to him training for the next competition for a rematch. The resulting training and tournaments spanning the rest of this 22-episode series. Super Yo-Yo is a competitive sports series. There are a number of different competitors that we get acquainted with. It's like a lot of other sports series where, oh, you really don't care about the sport itself? No problem, that's what the characters are for. And then, before you know it, you're learning about all these different techniques and mechanisms involved. This information 99% of the audience is never going to need to know, but they know it now. The person learning this stuff alongside us is Shunichi. He's kind of an average protagonist for this type of story. He shows a lot of potential for the sport from the start, but isn't immediately the best, leaving room for growth. Shunichi is a bit arrogant and headstrong, but not aggressively so. You want to see him go as far as he can in a sport where, while he is an amateur with little experience, he has a fighting chance to win. The odds are almost always against him, but it's just more for him to overcome. He's somewhat mentored by the Meijin, Master Nakamura. Nakamura is the only pro spinner in Japan, and now for a quick digression of that term, because I did research on it and dang it, I'm going to share examples of words that people use for people who play with yo-yos. Yo-yo player, yo-yoer, thrower, and the one I'll be using for this video, spinner. Spinner is the one used in the series itself and in the title in Japanese, and potentially in certain Asian territories in real life. Japan currently, to my understanding, doesn't use the term spinner for a player. Typing yo-yo spinner in Japanese into a search engine just shows me results relating to Bandai products, like the ones from this show. Regardless, pro spinner Nakamura gives Shunichi a harsh training regimen needed to bring him up to an even level with everyone else in terms of physical ability. Practicing only the long sleeper with a weighted glove during that time, Shunichi has to learn everything above the basic level as he goes along. And what's a competitive protagonist without their rivals? Seito Hojoin is Shunichi's main rival and the previous winner of the tournament. Hojoin is well composed and is very good at what he does, piano. Piano isn't something he went into on his own, but rather because of his family. Hojoin is sort of the opposite of Shunichi. It was a passion of his from an early age, one that Hojoin almost loses because of his father who hadn't gotten over the recent death of his wife.
Little fool! You've been skipping your piano lessons again while I was gone on my business trip, haven't you? Your mother's dying wish was for you to become a pianist, and I swear on her memory you will. But you're wasting your time with this toy! Throw this piece of trash out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, his old man later realizes his mistake in throwing out something so important to his son, but ruins any chance of redemption with this line.
I'm warning you, Hojoin. If you ever skip piano lessons again, I'll throw the yo-yo away forever.
So in summation, not the greatest upbringing. I assume from my skimming of the comic that this is something that'll play out more in the source material, but that's neither here nor there. I do not have access to the comic in English, and my Japanese comprehension is still a work in progress. Hojoin is very confident in his skills, and rightfully so, but he doesn't show off unless provoked.
You call yourself a spinner? Ugh.
Dude, that's a shooting star! He's playing the piano with one hand and doing a yo-yo with his left.
In stark contrast to Hojoin, we have Benkei. Benkei thinks highly of himself despite having no reason to do so. He's loud and boisterous. Benkei is an antagonist for the first episode only, being the bully defeated by Shunichi, and quickly turns into the comedic relief rival that lucks out in terms of how far he gets.
Binkai, you didn't catch hyper level trick 7. Split the atom fragment. However, your opponent messed up and split the atom. Binkai, you're advancing to the second round.
An easy win, you say?
Thanks for having me. I'm out of here.
Honestly, he gets to be pretty good in this role, and might be my favorite character based solely on humor. Back to serious competitors, Gokure Juta is probably the second greatest of Shunichi's rivals.
That's right! I'm with the troop! Come to the circus if you want to see even more amazing good tricks!
Yeah, the dub voice is something to talk about later, but Juta is a character with a strong motivation. He and his family work in the circus. Juta is a pro on the high wire, and it's something his younger brother, Juji, wants to do too, but goes up there before he's ready. There is nothing physically keeping Chuji from walking, but there is psychologically. This is Chuta's motivation pushing him through the tournament. The thought that his coming out on top in the competition will help Chuji overcome his mental roadblock. Chuta is cocky, but he actually has the skill to back it up. Finally, there's Mai. Small girl, quiet, and has no qualifications from taking any test from performing every trick on a given level, something even Shunichi has. Just a completely unsuspecting participant, and there goes Wappa, someone shown to be good at this, being knocked out of the tournament early on by Mai. She even kicked him out of getting more than this mentioned in the summary. Sorry, Wappa.
In fact, I'll leave you in the dust!
Leave me in the dust? Don't make me laugh.
It's a bit of a spoiler giving away the other side of her personality, but it's kind of obvious that what she appears to be is not all that there is to her. All these characters and more make up the competitors of the Japan Champion Carnival. The tournament itself features a variety of events that the spinners compete in. After the preliminaries, we have one-on-one matches where the first in each pairing to complete all 30 tricks from the basic, super, and hyper levels first without making a mistake wins. The later rounds have the pairs from performing Japan Pro Spinner tricks, these being the ones above hyper level, but instead of a race, spinners do all tricks in order over and over again, and the first person to mess up is eliminated. What's going to take more than just a sentence to explain is the event in between those two, the VR Yoyo hoverboard race. Just something that sounds like words thrown together, but is more interesting considering what all is involved. Spinners wear VR headsets and gloves and stand on top of boards that are controlled by themselves and by events in virtual reality. Tricks are performed in real life with the difficulty, accuracy, and speed of the trick determining how fast the board will move in the virtual world. Environmental conditions within the world like wind further affecting the board. This section of the tournament really is interesting. Spinners have to make decisions regarding what tricks they do to stay ahead of their opponent and to adapt to their changing environment. The best trick you can do over and over at a good speed might not always be the best for keeping your balance.
Hojo has drastically dropped his speed, but Minagishi was a split second behind him. He's going too fast.
Although I do wonder what would have happened if accessibility would have been an issue. Hypothetical, a contestant can stand for tricks as they were expecting to, but will genuinely fall over the instance that there's any movement from the board in this round that nobody was expecting. The nature of this round being a complete surprise to everyone participating. Heck, they actually luck out in not having to replace the headsets to fit on two of these guys.
That doesn't fit! This guy's got a huge head!
Visually, Super Yoyo is a mixed bag. There is care taken to make sure the actual yo-yo tricks look good, but characters can look off here and there. What's most interesting to see, that you've probably noticed if you've been looking closely at the video, is the switch to digital coloring. Super Yoyo uses traditional coloring for a whole 8 episodes before making the change. A show using both is something I've only seen in longer shows, ones that ran for at least a season before changing up their process like this. It's a little surprising to not even be halfway through a relatively short show and see such a radical change.
It's gone! Whoa! Alright! 2 times at bat, 2 home runs! Yeah!
It's not exactly helping either that this is early digital coloring, so it may look garish at times. Animators, speaking in general and not for this show specifically, were still learning how bright the colors needed to be compared to the previous means of coloring. The animators for the show, speaking about them specifically, did also need a bit of time to remember what colors American spinner Alex Garcia was designed with, but I digress. Lastly, there's the picture quality. I'm saving it for the last segment since it has to do with the show's availability, but spoiler, as things are now, it ain't great. Audibly, Super Yoyo has good opening and ending themes. It should be 2 openings and 1 ending that you just saw, but I've decided to go with a similar experience to what I saw instead. I've taken a look at what seems to be 2 international releases for this show, and neither of them use the second opening theme, Loop and Loop. I've gotten used to hearing the OST in my head at times, not only because it's good, but because it seems like they reuse the same tracks more often than in some other shows. This is not a numerical comparison, but it just feels that way. Given the nature of this video, this would have been one where I use pieces of the official soundtrack as the video's background music, but I am unable to find more than one of these tracks isolated. It is one of the downsides of spotlighting something obscure. I think an official release of the BGM is out there, but it's not something I could get my hands on at the moment. There are a number of episodes where we take a break from the tournament in progress to look into the backstory of one of our characters. There's a few of them, and they're generally alright, if not outright good. Then there's episode 9. Titled Yo-Yo Man Was Here, this is the only episode not in continuity. It's just a dream someone is having. A very bad dream. Shinichi is visited by a small space alien that gives him an uncomfortably long kiss on the forehead that somehow grants him the ability to transform into Yo-Yo Man with the duty of defeating the Yo-Yo Devil, as you do. Yo-Yo Man doesn't possess any regular fighting ability. What he does is read the rules of yo-yo etiquette aloud, which causes him to fire a beam out of his mouth.
Strings wear down! Change string before it cuts during play!
And that is the point of the episode, to teach about the do's and don'ts of playing with a yo-yo, and also to shield as hard as possible at the climax.
These are hot collector items, starting with Coca-Cola Glen!
Look, I get it. Bandai has their name all over the place in this show. I'm not under any misconception this show wasn't meant to sell yo-yos. It nearly worked on me, and is an example of why I need to stop watching shows that want me to buy things, but then I wouldn't have much of a channel, now would I? But that doesn't mean it feels great seeing Yo-Yo Man pull out a case of very collectible yo-yos that are used to defeat the Yo-Yo Devil. Every other instance that we take time out of the main story, it is to focus on a character's backstory that furthers our understanding of what it took for them to get here. Hojo-in's upbringing and family, Chuta's motivation to help his brother, and Nakamura's rediscovering of his passion for yo-yos that led to his coaching, and the development of the Hyper Dragon, the main yo-yo used by Shunichi for most of the series. The Yo-Yo Man episode, in contrast, is entirely skippable. When rewatching this show for this review, I actually held off on rewatching this episode until the last minute, so as to not break the flow of the story. If I watch the show again in the future, I do not see myself sitting through this episode again. In case you weren't looking at your screen, I'm about to spoil the finale of the series, so be sure to skip this segment if that matters to you. Usually, for something I'm not giving a complete synopsis or summary for, I won't talk about the ending, but this is something I want to highlight. Shunichi makes it to the finals of the tournament. It's a close call, but ultimately, Hojo-in wins the rematch. Shunichi takes it a bit harder than last time, but he doesn't mope around for very long.
I lost. Hey, it was fun.
At the end of the tournament, an announcement is made. Nakamura is putting together a team for Japanese spinners to compete internationally. We have Hojo-in, some champions from other regions, and several competitors from this tournament, with one notable exception.
And last, one more person, Seito Hojoin.
The last international, huh? Well, everybody's terrific. Hey, it's okay, Leanne, Beso. Thanks, Mr. Norm. So long.
Shinichi!
I accomplished my goal. I can forget about all this now.
Shinichi was not selected to be a part of the team, and seemingly goes back to his normal life before he became a spinner. Weeks go by of him living without the only thing he's been passionate about. And that's when Nakamura shows up to explain things.
Shinichi, your greatest asset can be your greatest weakness too. You would have practiced from morning till night without waiting for your elbow to heal. So I waited half a month.
Shinichi sustained an injury during the tournament, and took some painkillers given him by Dr. Groucho Marx, I'll explain that name later, to continue competing. Nakamura was aware of this. He wanted Shunichi to avoid overextending himself. It's something I really like that happened. No, not him being injured. It's how it was handled after the tournament. This is a show for selling yo-yos. It's something for a show meant to push a product to have a character take a step back. Shunichi found something he can be passionate about, but he wasn't allowed to let it completely take over his life and get in the way of his recovery. And at the discretion of Nakamura, no less, the only professional here. Letting yo-yoing take a back seat for a minute and not letting it seem like it's the best, most wonderful thing in the world that everyone should go out and buy right now is really something. It elevates Super Yo-Yo at the end into feeling a bit less like a sports show mixed in with a commercial and more like a sports drama. And now, at last, for this part. If you've heard of this series prior to this video, there's a few different ways that could have happened. You yourself have an interest in yo-yos. This is a show you actually saw on television or on VHS or VCD. Or, perhaps, you found it the same way I did some years back. You saw isolated clips of the English dub uploaded onto the internet.
I'm sorry for looking at your yo-yos without permission.
This is why beginners look so foolish. When I said beginners, I meant you two.
Chuta, you shouldn't be concentrating on me.
What speed? I've never seen such fast behind-the-back loops in my life.
My brain and I are of one mind and one body. Dude, what a joke, man. Stumbling right at the start of We Walk the Dog. Super level is as super level does, dude.
Hey, for sure! You're mine! Ah!
Super Yo-Yo's English dub was recorded in Singapore by Odex/Voiceovers Unlimited, and it's known for its poor quality. Let me preface this with what little information I could find about it, given the fact that anytime I find this show somewhere, the opening and ending credits are left entirely in Japanese. According to Behind the Voice Actors, despite how many different characters there are, the English dub was produced with only 4 actors. Maybe there's a 5th one that voiced Mai, but then it's weird that she didn't voice anyone else. This seems to be a prime example of a dub recorded on a tight budget. Again, I'd say for sure it was if I was able to dig up any information about the production. If there's only 4 actors, then that really explains why they go so far out there with some of the voices for these characters.
I don't think we should let the contestants change the rules.
If we stay like this, we'll be out here till nightfall. So see you later.
That's ridiculous. How can you tell just by doing a long sleeper?
Then why do you say the hyper dragon is pitiful?
You idiot! Don't bother me when I'm playing yo-yo.
I think the worst case is probably the little alien guy.
This isn't a yo-yo. Look, you gotta stop this. You gotta listen to me. I'm trying to tell you what's going on.
I'm glad this guy is only in that one episode. The voice gets on my nerves just so much more than anything else present here. Range of voices aside, we have plenty of awkward and bad line reads. I'm just going to get this out of the way now after not even being halfway through my list of complaints, but not everything is purely awful. Not every line of dialogue will have something unintentionally hilarious or something to pull you out of the experience. Personally, I am not an expert judge of others' acting performance, nor will I claim to be. I doubt my ability to notice somebody overacting. I appreciate hearing actors put in the effort and only have an easier time noticing when somebody is either underacting, misdirected, or miscast. Everyone here is an actor who, I assume, could have been a part of a dub that was at least decent under better circumstances. Instead, we have a dub with outright bad takes left in.
I thought you didn't care. I thought you didn't care who won.
And now to take a break from the voices and tell y'all the issues with the script itself. In the first episode, when Beso suggests that Shunichi is going to wipe the floor with Benkei, Benkei says, "Oh yeah?" Balking at the idea. Or at least that's what his line seems like it should have been.
When Shunichi gets through with you, you're gonna be the yo-yo.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah. You said hell yeah? Makes it sound like Benkei's agreeing that he's about to get his ass kicked. In Japanese, the line is, which would have been more along the lines of, what was that? Saying, oh yeah? Defensively would have fit too, but instead it's a line that makes me question what they thought the phrase meant. Then there's the scene where 2 less knowledgeable spinners make fun of Shunichi, who was told by Master Nakamura to only practice the long sleeper with the heavy spinner's glove. Juta, able to discern all of this just by looking at what is happening, is about to tell off these 2 amateurs.
Hey, don't get me wrong. When I said beginners, I meant you two.
There sure is an awkward pause before he keeps talking, isn't there?
勘違いしないでよ。ど素人ってのは君たちのことを言ってるんだよね。
Yeah, he does a quick tongue-clicking noise to indicate that these two guys are wrong before telling them this outright. There is only 1 second of silence instead of 3 seconds that the English dub has. A short amount of time when you only think about it, but a noticeable one when it actually plays out. Then we have the exchange right after. He calls them amateurs.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Hey, I'm no kid. I got a name.
Judah's line is what happens when you make a change in your script, but then you don't make additional changes to keep things consistent.
なんだとこのガキ!
おいら、ガキじゃないよ。
Gakki is a word that can mean either kid or brat. Judah tells them his name because they just called him that other word in the original Japanese version. In the English version, because the beginners have their line changed, Judah's line is now unprovoked. There was no reason for him to say that. And once more, there's a very small gap between his lines in Japanese, but around a half a second in English, and it is noticeable.
Hey, I'm no kid. I got a name. It's Judah Kogore.
おいら、ガキじゃないよ。小暮中太って名前があるんだ。
The last bit I like to give some attention to before I start wrapping things up are the name pronunciations. We're off to a great start the very first time we hear the protagonist's name.
Nice pitch, Sanucci!
That one instance aside, there's at least 2 characters who always get their names said incorrectly. First is the main rival, given name Seito, family name Hojoin.
Hojoin.
Sito Hojoin.
Hojoin!
Mr. Hojoin?
Cutting the first and second resulting in the reading of ho as ho and the join as the English word join is somewhat understandable. Sloppy and inaccurate, but I get how we might have ended up here. Then there's Kirisaki Mai. Mai, M-A-I, already sounds like the English word my, M-Y. It is a 2-character name in Japanese and is not complicated in the slightest. When you get down to it though, at the end of the day, is this really that bad of an English dub? Yeah, mostly. As someone who sat through it twice, however, I want to clarify that it isn't the worst or anything. You can get pulled out of the viewing experience by mistakes and the like here and there, but it's not constant. Maybe your own tolerance for it won't be the same as mine, but for me it was possible to look past the issues with the English dub to be able to appreciate the show itself. I mentioned him earlier, but for some reason, the doctor that gave Shunichi the painkillers is voiced with a Groucho Marx impression.
Keep the elbow set and rest it for a month. All right? All right.
The glasses and similar mustaches seem to be the only reason they decided to do this, and he's not at all distinct in Japanese, but I can't deny it, it does work even in what is a serious scene.
Well, that's not good for your elbow.
Super Yoyo is good. Maybe it's something you might dismiss from the concept or from the English dub, especially given that I am unaware of any complete English subs that exist for the series, meaning it's dub only if you don't speak Japanese. But Super Yoyo is more than what it seems on the surface. I don't know how I would go so far as to call it great, but it absolutely has some merit to it. When I first watched it several years ago, it was just because I thought it might make for something to make a review about and never bother with again. Since then, I have scrapped the original script and rewatched the show. I actually look forward to each episode, even though I remembered most details of the series. And it does have its fans out there.
There are dozens of us.
It might even have more if it weren't for the poor state of the show's availability. You know, if I get this video done in time, 3/4 of my videos from this year will be on media that you can't get on DVD out here in North America. Super Yoyo goes even further than that by not even having a Japanese DVD release. Any footage you see of it online is either sourced from a VCD or a VHS. Quality is all over the place. This is the unfortunate fate of media that isn't a priority for companies to do anything with. Maybe it just did poorly, a reason that would explain why it adapts only the first half of the comic, or maybe there's more than one company involved, thus keeping any single company from just throwing this onto a streaming platform. Regardless, I like Super Yoyo, and I hope that someday it'll be less obscure, even if only by a little bit.